Hello there, wonderful humans. Welcome to Board Game Dads, the podcast slash videocast. This is episode September 2022. My name is Anthony.
And my name is Eric.
And we are the Board Game Dads, back with another monthly podcast. We're going to do a little bit of an August recap first, and then we got a whole bunch of September stuff to talk to y'all about. So, summer is winding down, for sure. We did just wrap up August, although as of this recording, there's a little bit of August left, but you guys don't need to know that part.
Before you move on, just based on what you just said, I would like to point out that there are more summer days in September than there are in June. So September is more of a summer holiday than June is, yet we typically associate September with fall, June with summer.
Right. Yeah, it'd be better if the seasons started at the end of a month and not like the 21st
seriously.
of a month.
Come on, nature.
Come on, Mother Nature. Come on.
It's 2022.
But yeah, sometimes even in October, it's still pretty hot out. I mean, again, depends on where you live, obviously. But up here, I've had some pretty hot October days, I'll tell you that much.
That is true.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. It is still regular old summer right now. And we're going to do a little bit of a recap of August, the last full month of summer. Eric, we had a lot of special holidays to touch on that we touched on in the last episode in August, including my birthday, which
That's
was
right.
on August 8th. For the first time in my life, I was not in New Jersey for my birthday. We were on a family vacation. So this was our first full-fledged family of four vacation that was included a road trip down to South Carolina with a stop off in Virginia for one night. On the way down there, on the way home, we did a stop off in Maryland. Now, overall, this vacation receives a pretty mediocre score.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So it was a little bit of a Murphy's Law thing. I feel like a bunch of stuff went wrong and just kind of kept snowballing. And it was definitely a vacation where I was probably looking forward to coming home more than any other vacation.
Got it.
And again, that was not based on one particular thing. It was sort of a combination of stuff. But the biggest kind of damper was that our son AJ got sick on vacation. Got to take him to a doctor in another state, which is always annoying. And, it was just a little bit of a kid's cold, really. Tested positive for what they call RSV. I forget what it stands for, but it's essentially a kid's cold. It's kind of on the more alarming side in young kids that are like less than a year old. But regardless, it still was pretty much, I think, the worst, like outwardly sick that I saw him. Like he was coughing one day nonstop, like could not get a sentence out, so much coughing, and eventually passed it on to his sister, and then eventually I got it. My wife Lauren was the only one unscathed from the illness for vacation, but there were some highlights. I did have a great birthday meal at a restaurant, one of the best steaks I've had in my entire life, at a place called Clark's in North Myrtle Beach. So if you live around there, check out Clark's. There was a couple cool things that we did. Went to the beach a couple times. AJ loved that. Went to the ocean. Cool thing about the ocean there is, well, the water is ridiculously warm, like warmer than any ocean I think I've ever been in. And just because I guess the way the tide was that particular day, you could walk out way far into the ocean, like way farther than I ever have in the Jersey Shore, for sure, which is great for for us with the kids and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, so vacation.
How many good days did you get with everybody feeling okay enough to do something?
Maybe 3 or 4, I guess.
That's not bad.
Not bad. Yeah. I will say, one of the big silver lining, and this was a big difference maker in terms of how bad it could have been. We were staying with my in-laws at their house. They have a house in South Carolina. I think the situation would have been much more annoying and more more suffering had we been in a hotel
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. So that was definitely a little bit of a saving grace having a regular old house to be sick in instead of a one room hotel.
So, ironically, while you were down in South Carolina getting sick, I got COVID. So, and for about 3 days, I quarantined, I distanced myself from the family, and then they all got sick anyway.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was a pretty rough ride. Not as bad as the first time. We're both vaccinated, we got our booster, but it was still pretty bad cold for a few
Yeah,
days.
yeah, it's not fun.
Nope.
So yeah, there was a lot of sleepless nights, but is what it is. Made the best of it, and now we're back home, and everyone seems to be doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, board game wise, August is a big one because you have Gen Con, which is one of the biggest conventions
Right.
around. Lots and lots of games are either released there for the first time, or a lot of them are announced. Although I guess that's kind of wavered a little bit in the past few years, given the way the pandemic has affected conventions and whatnot. But still, a whole lot of publishers and stuff. People were there, so a lot of games to talk about. Eric and I are not going to go through a Gen Con list. We were not there. You can certainly look that stuff up, and maybe a couple things that we'll touch on later in the hotness. Could be things that were announced at Gen Con. So who knows?
So let's move on to our last three, and I believe that I am up first. So
You
the
are right.
last game that I played is called Jamaica. Now we have talked about this game in the past. This game plays well over Zoom, and
Mhm.
this is a favorite of ours. It's Malcolm Braff, Bruno Cathala, and Sebastian Pauchan, and it's published by GameWorks. At least the version that I have is GameWorks. There's probably a whole bunch of other publishers. Anyway, this is a 2 to 6 player, 30 to 60 minute, ages 8 and up game. It's a racing game. It's got simultaneous action selection. There's a little bit of resource management, and there's combat. And you're basically pirates moving along this track trying to find these hidden treasures, steal gold and food and cannons from everybody else, and get to the end first. And that's how you win the game. And it, in the two-player version, which is what we mostly play when we're not playing it over Zoom,
Mhm.
there is a ghost player, but it's not that bad and it's not that confusing. So this is an acceptable two-player, with a third ghost player kind of variant.
Okay.
Whereas a lot of games that are 2 to 6 players, like Jamaica, just shouldn't play with two players. I'm okay with this one. And we have the expansion as well. I forget what it's called. Rum and Bones. I have no idea. That's another game entirely. we'll just edit that. And, but it
Jamaica, the
adds
Carcassonne expansion.
it adds like a grid of crew members, and you can when you go to these areas on the board that you pay gold, then you can recruit one of these crew members, and then they'll take up a spot in your cargo hold.
Mhm.
They have I think 5, maybe 6 of them, and so they take up a spot, but they'll give you some sort of bonus, which could be worth it, and you can always replace them with gold later on.
Yeah, kick
So
them off the ship. I think
yeah,
it's just called the crew.
probably.
Yeah.
It's certainly not called rum and bones, but there's a
No.
little rum bottle. That's the marker that
Yes.
you move. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
it's
this
interesting because you don't have full access to the entire grid of people at
right,
first. It depends on where that bottle kind of moves around a little bit.
and then
Yeah.
once you have to move it, you got to pay to move it. But definitely a great expansion. Maybe doesn't work great over Zoom unless you both have it, and then you set up the grid correctly, and then it's just
Yeah.
a little bit of extra bookkeeping, and it's possibly not worth it. But
Yeah. I think it would take away from the enjoyment factor a little bit for
Jamaica,
sure.
great game.
Jamaican me crazy. All right, my first of the last three is, no surprise, a flippin' right, because there's a whole lot of those over in this household. And again, I will say these three, because we just came back from vacation, these last three were all played on vacation. So these are all South Carolina plays. We got super, mega, lucky box, flipping right, where you're just trying to kind of complete these square cards. Flip over one number. Everyone's going to cross off that number on one of their cards. Try to complete the whole card. And as you can see here, there are these sort of extra bonuses for completing certain rows or columns on each card. In addition to getting some extra points, you can also get things that these little tokens that let you do some stuff like the lightning bolts allows you to manipulate the number that was just flipped. If you don't like it, you can change it up or down using as many of those lightning bolts as you want. So, if you got enough of them and this 3 comes out, but you really want it to be a 7, you can go ahead and move that thing 4 times if you want. In addition to that, there's some moon tokens, which will be plus or minus points at the end of the game, and then stars are just another way to get points throughout. I really like this one because it is quick to the table and it is very easy to teach. Again, I was able to teach this to my in-laws, and it's kind of a no-brainer. And it's always fun when you finally see someone getting that like chain reaction combination of stuff, right? Like you finish your row, and you're like, all right, that gives me a 5. Well, that 5 finishes this column, which gives me a lightning bolt. And then you get all these other combinations and cascading things happen. So Super Mega Lucky Box is a quick one. This one's from Game Right. Phil Walker Harding, who is a designer, we both enjoy his stuff a lot, is the designer of this one. Artwork by Sergey Seidlitz. Came out last year. Plays from 1 to 6. Ages 8 and up, says Board Game Geek, and it's about 20 minutes, which is very, very accurate. You can easily play this game more than once, for sure. That is Super Mega Lucky Box.
Yeah, that's a fun one. The first time I played that game, it was an instant classic, and it just seemed like, I can't believe this hasn't already been around. Like, I can't believe this wasn't already a game.
Yeah.
It just seems like somebody should have made that like 10 years ago.
It's just so simple, right? There's
Yeah.
really not a lot to it at all. It doesn't need anything. I hope there's not an expansion for this game. It is totally unnecessary. Please, no expansions for this. All right, what's your number 2?
All right, my number 2 is Tobago.
Tobago.
So first off, I'm just going to say this right up front. This is game number 100 in our 100 game challenge. This is the 100th different game that we've played this year. So our challenge is over, and now we can play whatever we want. Finally, we saved this one for last because this is both my wife and I one of our top 3 favorite games, and it's Bruce Allen, and I think this might be one of his only games. I'm not sure. They did put out an expansion for it. We have not gotten that. And this is published by Zach Verlag and 9 other ones, including Rio Grande. So this is a treasure hunting, searching for game. You're playing out on your turn. You can either move your Jeep or you can play out a clue card as to where the treasure might be. And these clue cards will say things like within 2 of, a certain type of landmark or in the largest area of mountain. And the board, which is beautiful, changes every time you put it out. There's 3 areas of board and you can flip them over and it just changes a little bit of, the layout of everything. And the little, the components for this game, there's like these little, I don't know, like the Easter Island statues.
Yeah.
And little palm trees and little huts. And, you put them out like within at least 4 away from each other. And you just have to use these clues to narrow down where this treasure is. And then you go to get the treasure. And it's really cool. And then the best part of the game in this so the way that the treasure works is, let's say in a 2-player game, I put out the first clue, you put out the second clue, I put out the third clue, and then I found it. So that means that I'm going to get 3 treasure cards to look at because I put out 2 clues plus I found it. And you're going to get 1 treasure card to look at. And we're going to look at them, and then we're going to put them back, take an extra one from the deck, shuffle them all out. And then in order of the person that found it all the way to the first clue, you're going to go, do you want this, whatever number it is, 1 through or 2 through 6 treasure? And you say yes, and then you take your token off, or you say no, and it goes to the next person. And sometimes there's a curse card, and just the situation is always a lot of fun when one person knows that there's a curse card in there and the other person doesn't. And they're like, no, I don't want this 2. And then it's your turn. You're like, I'll take the 2. You're like, why are they taking the 2 so quickly? So they can get out of there because they don't get and that every time that happens, it is a really, really great time. like I said, this is one of my favorite games, one of my wife's favorite games. We've played it 3-player well. We've played it 4-player. I don't know that I would recommend it with 4-player. It just seems to be, it could be a little confusing. There's a lot of moving pieces in a four, at least in the 4-player experiences I've had, and it could have been the
Mm,
people. But this is best at 2 or 3.
okay.
And also, we upgraded immediately. Instead of the treasure cubes being white, gray, black, and brown, we went out and got like those little plastic, like crystal kind of things, and just so
Mm.
now we're putting them out. Look, oh man, I can't wait to talk about this game in more detail, because this game deserves a lot more attention than like a minute or two in a podcast.
Well, maybe it's time for you to make your top 100 or top 50.
I could do a top 50. I don't think my top 100 would end up being like my top 50 and then 50 other games that I own that are
Mm.
good, or
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good. Like I don't think I've played enough that I should do a top 100. But a top 50 I could do. I could definitely do a top 25.
All right. All right. We'll start working on that.
Yeah. I've already done it.
Yeah. All right.
I
I'll
just have
start
to
working on mine.
look at the new ones and maybe move some stuff around.
Awesome. Yeah, I do enjoy that game too, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. Next up for me is another blank and right. Well, this one is a roll and write, and this is one that you turned me on to. I had not played this game. You taught it to me. We played it over Zoom, and I picked it up pretty soon afterwards, and that is Trek 12. This is Trek 12, the Himalaya version. I believe there's also an Amazon one, right? And then a bunch of like promos and stuff like that.
I don't know if
Um,
Amazon's out yet, or it might just be a print and play. I'm not sure.
oh, okay, okay. Yeah, but this box alone comes with a lot of different maps, so there's a lot of replayability here. You can play any of these as just like a one-off, which is the way we played it. Again, because I was teaching it to new players, or you can do like 3 of these different mountains and make it kind of like a campaign thing. But essentially, you're just going to roll these 2 dice and do something with them. Those things being either choosing the higher of the 2 numbers and writing that somewhere on your map, the lower of the 2 numbers, you can subtract them, you can add them, and you can multiply them. You can do each of those things only 4 times, so you want to choose wisely. What you're trying to do in this map with these numbers is a couple different things to score points. And again, I like the way the scoring works in this game because it lends itself to teaching new players. I was teaching this to Lauren's stepdad and mom, and all I had to say was things like, you're making a run or a group. And he understood that that meant a bunch of numbers that were the same or a bunch of numbers that go in some kind of numerical order. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make things go, up 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or maybe like a group of threes or a group of sevens, things like that. And you'll get points based on how many of those numbers are in that particular group and like what the highest one is and things like that. There are some maps that have a little bit of different terrain where you're not allowed to use a certain number, right? It gets like narrower. The range of numbers you're allowed to put in some of those spots gets a little bit narrower.
Right.
But the very simple one, the first one here, it doesn't have any of those restrictions. So this from Pandasaurus, came out in 2020, plays, they say anywhere from 1 to 50 players, which
Hmm.
I mean, I guess makes sense, but why stop it at 50?
Right.
Or, I mean, like, it just is, it could be infinite then,
You just go
hypothetically,
to
right?
99 like everybody else does, and it will still question it.
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. But it does play in about 15 to 30 minutes, and that's definitely fair. Again, depending on if you're playing a one-off or a whole campaign. This one is also from Bruno Cathala, who you mentioned earlier, along with Corentin Lebrat. Artworks by Jonathan Alcomte and Olivier Derotuo. Probably butcher that.
Now, I don't remember if you mentioned this or not, but this is another roll and write that seems like an instant classic, right?
Yeah.
You have 2 dice. One goes to 6, one goes from 0 to 5. You roll them, you take those 2 numbers, and then you either take the lower number, the higher number, subtract the 2, add the 2, or multiply the 2. And you can do each one of these 4 times. And that's so cool because, you know what you're doing. You know what kind of numbers you need. At a
Hmm.
certain point, you're like, well, I need all these high numbers, and there's no way to get them because all you have left are like the lower number or the minus, and you're like, I'm not going to get that 10. This is, oh man, this is, and unfortunately, so we got this for Christmas, and we played it a bunch between Christmas and New Year's, and then we started our 100 game challenge,
Mm.
and we played it once. And so we haven't played this since January.
Yep. So now you got to get that campaign in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Expedition, I think they call it Expedition, right?
Yeah, we had done one or two of those, and and
Mhm.
then if you do a certain something, you get to open one of those envelopes.
Right.
Yeah, cool little thing they did.
I like it. I'm glad you turned me on to that one. I want to look forward to playing that more.
All right, so my final game of the last three that I've played is a game called Lost Cities. This is
Ah,
a
I've heard of this.
Reiner Knizia game. This is a published by Cosmos. It's a two-player only hand management, push your luck set collection game, I guess. Plays in the box says 30 minutes. Game plays in 10 minutes. Now, I don't know if in the rules it says you really should play 3 games, don't just play one. But if you're going to play this game, you really should. You should play it 3 games instead of just one, because one game, the scores in this can be very, very swingy.
Yeah, yeah.
So just keep that in mind when you play. But this is for ages 10 and up. And you have, I think, 8 cards in your hand, and you can either play one under one of the whatever color it is. There's maybe 5 or 6 colors, or you can put it in the middle so that the other player could take it. And if you play something on a color, that means that you are going to definitely score that color. So if you play a 2 on something and that's it, you're going to lose 18 points, because at the end of the game, the first thing you do is subtract 20 from any column that you started, and then you start adding up your points. And you're going to be putting out cards with numbers from 1 to 10, and that's it. That's the game. And it's really, really quick, really, really simple. I know I didn't explain it that great, but like this is a classic. This has been around a long time. And if you're
Mhm.
looking for a quick game to play, now the cards are black rimmed or black bordered, so they look like they get beat up pretty easily. But
Yes.
who cares? Whatever. You just take it out and you play a few games of it, and you put it back in. You're like, oh, that was fun. And the scores are going to be like 60-2, and then 85-17. Like 3 crazy scores. But
Yeah,
whoever
yeah.
wins 2 ends up the big winner.
Yeah, definitely a lot of wear and tear on this because it's just cards and you're shuffling them a good amount too. If you play this game at like a board game cafe, unless it's a brand new copy, those cards are going to be pretty beat up. But it kind
Yeah.
of adds to the whole, I don't know, adventure-y kind of ancient
There's,
artifact looking thing.
there's not a lot of theme, but so there's also Lost Cities, the dice game. There's Lost
The
Cities
board game.
Rivals.
There's
I
the
think there's
board
Lost
game.
Cities, the board game. So there's like
Yep.
4 other games that are all pretty similar, having to do the same kind of thing. We have Lost Cities Rivals and the dice game, and they're both great. And somehow this game has the most theme, just because of like the look of the board and the cards. And there's no theme in this game, but it's great.
It is great, and it's pretty intense for just cards. You're maybe the first 2 3 turns, but at some point you're really like debating what to do. Like, you don't want to get rid
Oh
of this
yeah,
card in your hand. Your opponent's going for those reds, and sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and just put it down.
and then
Um,
you could be sitting there with like 4 or 5 cards that you want to put down, because it's like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for one color, and all of a sudden there's no cards left in the deck, and you don't have
yeah,
any more turns left, and you can't put them all down. Now you're going
yep,
to lose points because you waited to the last second.
yep,
So yeah, a
yep.
lot of we. This is one of our oldest games. This has got to be one of like the first 20 games or so that we've owned, and so it's gotten a lot of plays throughout the
Mhm.
years.
Nice. Well, my next one, my last one, I should say, is a newer game, pretty new. In fact, it's an award winner, won the Spiel des Jahres this past year, and that is Cascadia.
Mhm.
So Cascadia, I could see being in my collection forever. I love this game. I love teaching this game. I love looking at the cards in this game. I just love this game. This one is from Flat Out Games. Plays 1 to 4, ages 10 and up, about 30 to 45 minutes. That's pretty accurate. From designer Randy Flynn and art by the amazing Beth Sobel. Anything that her name is on, my eyes are going to look at for sure. In this game, you are building a sort of wildlife habitat in front of you with these hexagon tiles that all have different terrains on them. You don't have to match up the terrain types when you're putting your tiles down, but it is quite beneficial if you do, because that's how you're going to score some points. In addition to that, there are some animal tokens. Those are the round ones. And each of these hexes has one, two, or three types of animals that could reside there. When it's your turn, you're basically choosing from the middle one set. So you're taking a hex tile and an animal token paired together, and then you're adding them to your tableau. You don't have to put that token on the tile you just put out. You can, but you don't have to. So in addition to the matching the terrains, each of these animals, and there's 5 animals in the game, is going to score in a different way. And the cool thing about this game is there's actually multiple cards for each animal. So the scoring objectives are not always going to be the same. A lot of replayability here. For example, the hawks in one of the cards say they just need to be not adjacent to any other hawks. So they got to be solo. Sometimes they have to be facing each other like in a straight line. You have salmon who kind of always want to be in sort of a row of some kind. Then there's bears who sometimes want to be with another bear or a group of 3 or 4. It all depends on the cards that come out. But that's basically the whole game. You're choosing those 2 things, putting them down in front of you as next person's turn. The only thing that's a little bit different is these nature tokens, which allow you to either wipe the tokens that are there to choose different ones, or it can break up that choice so that instead of taking the 2 that are right next to each other, you can take an animal token from, say, the left, and then a wildlife habitat thing from the middle or the right. That's it. Again, this was easy to teach. I will say that the first time I played it, and then I've noticed that the first plays of people that I've taught it to, it's easy to forget about the terrain points, the way that the tiles are set up. A lot of times people are more focused on the animal tokens, but you get points for both. Second time you play, you definitely change up your strategy a little bit. That's why I love this game. You almost always want to play it immediately after it's over. I know the first time I learned it, I wanted to play it right away and teach it. So I was like, hey, anybody want to learn this game? You guys play this game? Cascadia? I can teach it to you right now. We can play it right now. I was like,
Nice.
give it to me. That's
We love Cascadia. It's a great game. We've talked about that in the past before, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it may even come up in conversation a little bit later on today.
Oh, it's definitely going to come up on the videos too. You make a great game, you're going to get talked about.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so that is the conclusion of our last 3 or last 6. So now it is time for poetic interlude number 1. Haiku. Would you like to go first or second with this haiku?
Well, it depends on how fast I can find my haiku, because I have the world's most unorganized notebook in front of me right here.
You want me to go first?
I found it.
Okay, all right.
I'll go first. All right, ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Deep dive for treasure. Explorers on a budget. Gotta share the air.
Deep sea adventure.
You are correct, sir.
Yeah.
I wanted to do that one for a while now, and today I was originally trying to write the limerick about it, and I just couldn't get the rhymes going. I feel like the limerick is harder to write than the haiku.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
All right. This one's a little silly, but I think you'll get it. What's in the sack, Jack? Just a few loaves of bread, Fred.
Oh, my Lord.
Sounds like a lie, guy.
That is a Sheriff of Nottingham.
That is correct.
Very nice. Nice rhyming.
I wrote that after we did the last podcast. When
Yeah.
I just kept on trying to rhyme it, and it just kept on doing it. I wasn't even trying. But yeah, right after we did that, I was like, oh, I got this one in my head.
Excellent.
All right.
Well done, sir.
Now we are getting to the meat. September. So first off, more people are born in September than any other holiday.
Month.
We'll just edit that out. Also, September. So I was looking up some interesting facts about September, and like all these like crazy popular and really influential TV shows all premiered in September. And I was like, wow. And then I started thinking about all TV shows from like, I don't know, 60s to like the 90s or early 2000s debuted in September. Like that
Sure.
was just when the new season started. So it's not really that important. So September is big for back to school.
Yeah,
And we did not one, but two back to school videos.
that's true.
That is true. So
That's
we
true.
can go check those out. I'm sure we'll throw a link down there. And by we, I mean Batista.
Yes, above your head.
Above my head.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Ryan joined us for one of those.
That is true.
Yeah.
September is also known for fall, like we talked about before. It's actually more of a summer holiday, but that's when the leaves start changing towards the end of summer, and that's when you really start to notice that fall is coming.
Hmm.
So let's start getting into some of these specific days. September 1st is the date that Robinson Crusoe started his first sea voyage from Hull to London in that book or series of books. I'm actually really not sure. I think it was just one book, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. There was like 8 sea voyages. Anyway, this is really, because we've talked about Robinson Crusoe before. This is just an excuse for me to give you guys a bonus limerick. So
Whoa.
I had already done a haiku for Robinson Crusoe,
Mm-hmm.
and so I did a limerick as well. And so I figured I'm probably not going to use it because I already did the haiku. So I'm gonna go ahead and use it right now.
All right.
Okay. It's kind of along the same lines as the haiku, though. This game has a cooperative style. Escape from some deserted isle. It's a great game to be choosing if you quite enjoy losing and playing a really long while.
Yes, those are
Yeah.
all true facts.
But it's still a great game.
It is. It
Yep.
is. It's
All
just
right.
not going to get out to the table that often. That's for sure.
No. And then also September 3rd in 1995 is the day that eBay was founded. And so
Mm.
eBay for a while was, big news, and then it kind of died off a little bit, but it's still around and it's still doing pretty good. And
Oh yeah.
you can get a lot of board games through eBay for somewhat decent prices. Shipping can be a killer,
Yeah.
um, but you got to do the math.
I'm pretty sure there is also an eBay board game that came out at some point.
There probably is.
Do you
It's
remember
probably garbage.
there used to be like eBay stores where you would take your stuff there and they would put it on eBay for you?
I only remember that from that movie, 40-Year-Old Virgin, I think.
Yeah.
It's the only time I've ever seen an eBay store.
Yeah,
But
no, there was one in Verona for a few years actually.
so speaking of eBay store, I heard the Board Game Geek marketplace is closing.
Yes.
So now eBay is possibly a top contender for where to get your board games that you can't find on BGG.
Tis true. Tis true.
All right, anyway, let's get to the slides for those of you watching. For those of you listening, there are no slides. All right, September 4th is National Wildlife Day. Now, we will probably do a top 10 video of wildlife games at some point because more keep coming out.
Cascadia.
There's Cascadia. There's so many out there that are just great games. It's a theme that I love. So and my wife as well. When a game comes out on Kickstarter, a new game, we're going to immediately look at it, and if it seems remotely interesting, we'll probably get it. And if they write something on like, proceeds from this go to help the whatever, all right, we're going to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my favorite games that we have talked about before is Meadow. It is designed by Clemens Kalicki and published by Rebel Studios. And it is a great game. It's got all different pieces of unique artwork throughout the cards. It's got this interesting mechanism where you use this little arrow to point in a grid of cards to which number card away from where you put the arrow, which can be on any of 3 sides, to take. And it's got a lot of cool stuff going on. And I highly, highly recommend this game.
Agreed.
But again, that's not the only game about wildlife.
No, there's a whole bunch. I just slapped up here Animals on Board because I just saw it on the shelf. This is from Stronghold Games. The story behind this is you're kind of like Noah's rival, right? Because so Noah's Ark has all the pairs of animals.
Right.
So you want anything but that. And this is one of those like I split you choose sort of things. There's a bunch of animal tiles in the middle of the board. When it's your turn, you can make a split or take a group. But once you take a group, you're done for that round. You're not taking any more animals. Everybody does that. You're trying to get groups of, like I said, 3, 4, or 5 of the same type, and you'll even get points for a single animal as well. You just don't want those pairs because those are Noahs.
We did play this game for our 100 game challenge, and it's a great game, like a filler game, because it's
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't played it in a couple of years, you don't remember how to play. You pick it up, you look at the rules for 2 minutes, you're like, oh yeah, and then you play, and then you're done
Yeah,
in 15 minutes anyway.
yeah, yep. It's fast.
Yep.
And Wild Serengeti, we actually recently talked about it on a Kickstarter Day video not too long ago,
Yeah.
so you can check that out too.
Yeah, that's another example of my wife backed this on Kickstarter because it's got animals. And it was a cool game. It was, I think you had to like line up. You had to put animals in certain positions in a certain order because you had these
Right.
cards where you wanted to take a picture of a tiger, or I don't think there's any tigers in the game. A lion, an elephant, and a giraffe standing in a row. So it's kind of a weird theme, but it's cool because it's animals and you're taking a picture. You're not hunting them. You're not doing
Yeah,
anything
no,
like
it's
that.
about nature photography, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool. All right, what's next?
All right, moving on. So that is September 4th. September 5th is Labor Day. Now, Labor Day is a celebration of American workers. And so I thought maybe we'll pick some kind of worker placement game that takes place in America. So I just randomly uh, grabbed the Manhattan Project. I've never even played this game. Uh,
Well
it's,
done.
it's designed by Brandon Tibbetts. It's Minion Games and I don't know 7 other publishers, and it's some sort of worker placement game. And I forgot because when we were looking through the slides before, Batista had informed me this game is about making a bomb, which it is, but they're still workers, and it's still in America. So I stick by my pick.
We should say Labor Day also is sort of the unofficial end of summer, the way we've mentioned that Memorial Day is the unofficial start of summer. A lot of like town pools and like seasonal kind of like parks and stuff tend to shut down after Labor Day. And it is at least in this area in New Jersey, it's back to school time. I know a lot of other places have already started in August. In fact, when we left South Carolina, the day we started driving home was their first day of school down there. So
Hmm.
they started in August. So that's that. All right. What do you got?
All right. So the next date we have is September 8th. Is the the Rams versus the Bills. So it's the
Ba-da-da,
first game of the
ba-da-da.
NFL, and so to commemorate the first game of the NFL in 2022, we have this game called First and Goal. We haven't played it in a while. It's a football game. It looks really cool, and it's basically like a little hand management game. It's designed by Stephen Glenn and published by R&R Games. And you picking your play of a card, you simultaneous action selection, and then the defense is picking their defense, and then you roll some dice based on if they're defending kind of a run and you're doing a pass, then you might get to roll like 2 or 3 dice, and then you roll, and you just chucking dice and rolling them and moving down the field or not.
Mhm.
But when you score a touchdown, when you throw a bomb and then the guy runs and you get like a 40-yard pass and then he gets a breakaway roll, so he gets to roll all the dice again, and then he gets into the end zone. That's a great feeling. Yeah, that's what this is one of the games where I'll put my arms up and run around the house going touchdown. I don't, and not just touchdown, but I don't put my arms up and run around celebrating. Especially in a competitive game. It's just me and my wife. Yeah, that's kind of rubbing it in.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna
this
say
game brings it out.
you don't yell touchdown in like Everdell or anything.
No, I might start, but not yet.
Are they they're generic teams in this? They're not like licensed NFL teams, are they?
No, they're generic teams, and
Right.
there's a bunch of expansions. We have one, and I think you had to put your own stickers on the dice, and
Yeah.
it was confusing because I don't remember there actually being rules, and we hadn't played the game in a while, and we were rolling their own defense die against them. It
Mhm.
was confusing, so we just don't play with that anymore. Although we haven't played the game in a while. Anyway, moving on. So we don't have a slide for this one, but September 11th is September 11th. Can't do, podcast talk about September, not talk about what is now known as Patriot Day.
Mhm.
It's also National Hug Your Hound Day, and I love to give my hound hugs, but she's sleeping over on the floor. And it's Grandparents' Day, so
Nice.
if you got a board game that your grandparents can play, I mean that's awesome.
Yeah.
I got nothing to recommend, so let's
Well,
hear it if you
a lot depends on how old the grandparents are, right?
right.
Because they could be grandparents of all. I mean, Tom
That's
Haskell is a
true.
grandfather at this point.
That is true. All right. So our next day is September 12th, which is National Video Games Day.
Beep, boop, boop,
And
boop, boop.
I feel like we've talked about this before, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So we're going to talk about it here again anyway. So a couple games that give you that kind of video game feel. One in particular, Seventh Continent,
Mhm.
because you play this game and then wherever you leave off, because it's not like you play it and then you die. It's this giant map campaign style. Wherever you leave off, you take all your cards, you put them back in order in this specific way, and then the next time you play, you pick up that and it's like you save your game and you save your progress, and now you're just here where you ended your last game, and you continue exploring everything,
Right.
and that's a really cool feel, and we have to get this one to the table. It takes up a lot of space,
Sure.
and we don't have the greatest table for that currently.
You got played on the floor.
Yeah.
As soon as we mentioned this day, the first game that came to mind for me was Boss Monster. Really based on the artwork alone. This is the Nintendo 8-bit, well, no, not no, 16-bit kind of artwork here. It even looks like one of the old containers with a new game in it. And basically, in that one, you're building this sort of level for a hero to go through, and then there was at least two expansions, I think, to that base game, along with another one, and then recently there's this overboss one where the big bad from the dungeon is now out to the overworld trying to take over. I think that one has a little more worker placement. Not worker
Hmm.
placement, tile placement to it. But yeah, this boss monster definitely has that old school Nintendo-y feel to it. So I want to put that one up there.
I did not realize that Overboss was the same monster from Boss Monster.
Ah, yeah. Look,
Yeah,
It's interesting because it's almost like the evolution of the video game, right? Like the artwork looks different
right.
now, and it's a little more complex. So I like how they did that for that. And yeah, there's definitely other ones that you can definitely say are have a video game feel to them. These are just a couple that jumped out to us.
Now, Boss Monster is another game that has been in our collection for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah.
We haven't played it in a long time. It's not much of a game for us as to where we are as gamers now, but like it's a cool little younger kids will like it. I'm not sure what the age range on it, but like that 10 to 12 age range, they'll
Mm.
probably enjoy it because you're trying to lure heroes in and destroy them in your dungeons. So like it's got like a kind of cool theme. It just doesn't really work for us anymore.
Yeah, but you won't get rid
All
of
right.
it.
So the next day we're going to talk about is September 13th, which is Programmers Day, which I don't really know what that means. It's just a day if you're, I guess, a computer programmer. But I saw it and I was like, oh man, we can talk about a programming game. So the one that I chose is called Dragon and Flagon.
Hmm.
It's designed by Jeff Brian, Jeff, Brian, and Sydney Engelstein, which I assume are all siblings that were like, "Hey, let's make this game." And it was published by Stronghold Games. And so this is like we said, um, programming game where you're programming your movements 3 cards in advance,
Hmm.
but it's a barroom brawl. And so you might pick up a chair and go to throw it at somebody, but that person already leapt off the table to try to drop kick somebody else. And then you throw the chair and it hits somebody different instead. And so you still get points. But then, something else happens and somebody throws a cup and it hits you in the head. And it's just a lot of crazy stuff can happen. And when you play, and I think this plays 2 to 8. And when you play, if everybody kind of knows what they're doing, it can be a lot of fun. Now, there are times you're going to play this game, and every time you go to do something, you're going to miss, and you're gonna have that in most programming games. But if you have a good group of people and everybody's kind of into that barroom brawl attitude and be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do that, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like I think the last time we played this game, I had like -2 points, and everybody else had like 70 something. But it was
Nice.
fun. We had a blast.
I will point out that so Jeff Engelstein is the designer of a few games, but Super Skill Pinball is his,
Right.
and Sydney, I believe, is his daughter,
Oh,
who
okay.
now is, I think she works for Stronghold Games now, and I don't know much about Brian, but yeah, it's a dad, and I'm assuming that's his son as well.
Cool.
Yeah,
So it's
not
a
my
little family game where they were like, oh,
yeah,
let's do a
yeah,
game about a barroom brawl.
not my favorite genre in terms of or no, mechanic, I should say, in terms of programming. I just tend to not be good at them, but I would give this one a shot because the theme is pretty unique. All right,
All
what's
right.
next?
What's next is September 17th is the day that Oktoberfest starts. I don't know if it's every year that it starts on the 17th or if it's like the first whatever of October,
Hmm.
but this is September. Anyway, uh, there's a game called Oktoberfest. I have never played it. I don't know that much about it. It was designed by Joshua Gerald Balvin and it was published by Rio Grande Games. So it's a bluffing and an auctioning kind of game, and it plays 3 to 5 players. So
Oh, a lot of
I mean,
strikes against this game.
well, I mean, if it's a bluffing and auction game, more than likely you can't play it with 2 players in the first place. So
Well,
that's
true.
that's kind of why I really haven't had a chance to learn more about this game. But it did tell me because I was reading the little introduction about it on Board Game Geek, and so I didn't realize that Oktoberfest was originally a celebration of a wedding. And then every year they started celebrating it again and again. And then it just became this huge celebration.
Hmm,
Yeah.
cool.
Do 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 do.
There you go. The more you know.
All right. And so also on the 17th of September, it is Batman Day.
Na 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 na.
Batman!
No shortage of Batman games for sure.
No. One of the games that I really like about Batman is Batman the Animated Series Rogues Gallery.
Hmm.
Now, this game is I think it's 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 players. Let me look at the on the picture it says 3 to 5. All right, so it's 3 to 5 players, and so I can't really get this to the table very often, but I did. I was able to play this game, and it was fun. It's a push your luck game with some cards, and you basically on your turn you're each a villain, and you want to get strong enough and have enough upgrades and I don't know thugs or whatever to eventually fight Batman. So what you're doing is you're flipping over a hero card, and then so you actually first you roll a bunch of dice. You roll I don't know 6, 7, 8 dice, and then you flip over a hero card, and then it'll tell you how to defeat him with whatever dice. So if you have those dice, you put them there. Otherwise, you're going to use some of your upgrades and things to manipulate those dice and go through as many of these cards as you can.
Hmm.
That's the push your luck. If you flip a card and you can't defeat him, you don't get most of your points. And I love the artwork from Batman the Animated Series. Maybe that's why I like this game so much. But we had a blast playing this, and I can't wait to get this one to the table again.
Yeah, I enjoyed this too. So the only Batman game I own is Love Letter, and the artwork there is definitely not from the animated series, although it is pretty cool. If you've never heard of Love Letter, I'd be shocked if you're watching or listening to this. But this Batman version is pretty similar. The only big difference is that if you correctly guess, so in Love Letter, one of the cards is the guard. In this game, it's Batman, which lets you try to guess what another player has. If you guess correctly in this game, you get a point. You get one of the Batman tokens. In addition to getting the token, if you're the last person surviving in the round. Basically, this is a game with a few cards that go from level 1 through 8. Whoever's left with the highest card in their hand at the end of the round is going to win. but it's not always easy to hold on to those cards because some other cards are going to make you discard stuff, or someone's going to guess what you have, or you're going to trade hands with somebody else. And it's a cool little, it's very basic social deduction, but I've had success teaching this to young players. So this one will definitely stay in my collection. And I did see, we mentioned eBay earlier. Apparently, this game is not in print anymore, and I've seen
Hmm.
some copies going on eBay for 70, $80. I was shocked.
Maybe they're going to reprint it and call it something different. Batman,
Instead of
a
Love
love
Letter
letter
Batman.
game. Yeah.
And yeah, the complete opposite of that is this Batman, the Batman Who Laughs Rising, which is one of the craziest looking covers and craziest looking comics that I've ever seen. In this one is cooperative where you're all playing against this deranged version of Batman who's in the middle. There's other versions of this game, Harry Potter and Thanos as well, but they're all relatively the same concept, cooperative card play.
So I believe that the Batman Who Laughs is from a different dimension, from like a dimension where everything's evil, and
Hmm.
he is Bruce Wayne that became the Joker.
Hmm.
So yeah, just throwing that out there.
Frightening.
Now, I've never played any of the Rising games because this is just a reskin of a bunch of different games, right? There's a Harry Potter one, there's a SpongeBob one, I think. So
Yes. Yep.
there's a bunch of these something Rising games, and I haven't played any, but they all seem to be what is it like area control kind of?
I think so. I think the cards around are different, like bases, and then you eventually try to do something with the middle. I honestly don't know.
Okay, well, it's Batman. So
Batman. All right.
there's also a game, Batman. I think Gotham Knights. Is that what it's called? It was like a Kickstarter. If you get everything, it was like I don't know, $3, $4, five
Oh,
hundred
that's
dollars,
the
something like that.
big game.
Oh man, and like the rule book was terrible. Like absolutely terrible. Oh man, I feel bad for a lot of people that didn't need to waste that money on that game.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty big flop overall.
All right, so September 18th is National Cheeseburger Day, which
Delicious.
yeah, I wouldn't really make a big deal of this. We've talked about Burger Up. I think we talked about it last month for National Sandwich Day or something. It's just another excuse to talk about this game. It's a fun game. That's it. We already go. It's like how many times can we talk about this?
Oh,
All
it's the
right,
new Flux. We can squeeze it into anything,
I
apparently.
guess.
All right.
Anyway,
What's next?
all right. So September 26th is National Pancake Day.
Ooh, also delicious.
I love me some pancakes, and I'll play a game about pancakes.
Well, there is Flapjack Flip Out, amongst others. This is kind of a dexterity combination memory game. You have different recipes to make different types of pancakes, and you're trying to remember what stack they're in. And then when it comes out, you try to grab it as fast as you can, put on your little flipper thing, and try to flip it over to the other side of the card. And I think that's how you make the pancake and get points. I've never played it, but it sounds like it would be chaotic fun, which I'm always down for. And like you said, it's pancakes, so come on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this game is not going to be that good with two, or it doesn't play for two, so we haven't really checked it out yet. But this is at my friendly local game store, and eventually we'll
Ah,
probably own it.
nice.
All right, so the last holiday in September to talk about is September 29th, which is National Coffee Day. A
Oh, so much
lot
good
of people
stuff
love
here.
coffee. I like coffee. I don't love coffee.
I love coffee for sure. Viva Java, there is a game called Viva Java. I have Viva Java, the coffee game, the dice game, which was probably on the earlier side of my collection as well. Not the best rule book, definitely hard to understand some of the stuff, and it's kind of a small print rule book as well. But basically, you're rolling these different types, these different dice that have different faces on them, which are different values and different types of coffee beans. So you're trying to make different blends of coffee. You can kind of like push your luck and keep your blend out there. It's going to slowly each round like deteriorate in terms of value. but you can keep it out there until someone else makes a better blend or you decide to take your dice back. And there's a couple different ways to score points. There's also a lot of different special abilities that you can get that let you do things like change, a color of one of the beans and the strength of the roast and things like that. So it's a fun one. It always takes a little bit of a time to reread the rule book for this one, but I do enjoy it. Now I put up Coffee Roaster here for you specifically because I know that you've been lately getting a little more into some solo gameplay. And I bring this up because Coffee Roaster is a solo only game
Hmm.
about, well, being the best coffee roaster. So it's a solo puzzle, and I've heard very good things about it from people that are pretty well known, solo fans of solo gaming.
Nice.
So yeah, maybe someday check this one out. I would say this would probably be a try before you buy
Right.
because of that
Right.
fact, right? If you don't like it, then it's just certainly going to sit there on your shelf and not get played. But that's Coffee Roaster, a solo coffee experience.
All right. Moving along now. We are at our second poetic interlude.
Mhm.
This one shall be our limerick. Okay. And I believe I'm going first. Are you ready for this?
Hit it.
There once was a man from the shore who worked at a surfboard store. As the neighborhood grew, more tourists came through and moved to the circles to score.
Santa Monica.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
I wasn't sure if surfboard store was going to kind of throw that at you, so I had to explain how they scored in
Yep.
the final line.
Now, I think last month we mentioned this game briefly because it was summer, and I don't think you had played it for your 100 game challenge yet. Did it get played?
Oh, it did. It got played.
It did. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I gotta play this one. It's been a while since we played this, and also it can be played over Zoom, which is bonus.
That
All right,
is true.
here's mine.
All right.
There once was a kid on vacation with his folks driving across the nation, but later they fled from hordes of undead on the brink of total annihilation.
Oh, man. Can you say that one more time?
Sure. There once was a kid on vacation with his folks driving across the nation, but later they fled from hordes of undead on the brink of total annihilation.
Hit Z Road.
Yes, that is correct.
Oh, man. You want to hear something funny?
Sure.
I have a backup limerick that I was going to save for Halloween, for October,
Oh boy.
and it was for Hit Z Road.
Uh-huh.
So we're going to do a bonus limerick. I can't believe that. All right. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Zombies had overrun my town, and there was no point in sticking around. So we grabbed everything we could, leaving behind our old neighborhood, and I made this game with some crap that I found.
Nice. Yours is better than mine. I like that.
Oh, I got to do another Halloween one now. I can't believe that out of all the games.
Sorry.
That's all right. All right, so it's time for the hotness. All right, so our first game we want to talk about in the hotness is Wingspan.
I've heard of that.
Wingspan, I think it came out in 2019. Everybody's heard of Wingspan. For some reason, it's in the hotness now, and we believe it's because they recently announced an expansion.
That's correct. These are the Birds of Asia now in this next expansion. So this is a game that you are basically putting out. It's a worker placement game. You're picking some spots to either take some new birds into your hand or take some food resources from the bird feeder or play these birds out into their respective habitats. And you can even lay some eggs. You'll get points in a whole bunch of different ways. There is the base game, there is the European expansion, there is the Oceania expansion, and now the Asia one. I will definitely be getting this. This is my favorite game, and I'm okay with mixing all those cards together. They play well together. There's no crazy, Oh, take this one out because you put this one in. We talk about rule books a lot. I think the rule book for this game is very well written. Most things from Stonemaier games are that way. And with the expansions, there's a lot of very clear, well, what if you have this card in this game? It's right here. It does this. Okay. It's I never really have to search for stuff about this game.
Right.
Um, Also, I will say that I believe I saw, I don't know if it was a Gen Con announcement or not, uh, but I believe they are making a big storage box for this now
Oh,
that
good.
there are going to be
I,
so many cards. Yeah.
I was gonna say they better put out like a big box expansion where you can hold all the cards in one thing, because we're
Yeah.
not going to be able to fit them all in and then they won't fit in the box if they put out another one of those little plastic things that they put in the last two.
Oh yeah, no, I don't even have that plastic thing in my because this is a game that I got some upgraded like
Yeah.
storage things for, and that it easily the heaviest box in my collection because of that, and there is nothing else fitting in that base box for sure. So I think this is called the nesting box. I'm not sure if it's available yet, and I think it will at least have some extra room for future expansions. Not that they're like set
Do
in
you know?
stone.
Do you know if this is going to be a Kickstarter? This expansion? Because maybe that will just be an add-on.
Maybe, maybe I don't know. I don't
All
know.
right.
All right, what's next?
What's next? I believe is Ahoy.
Ahoy, Captain!
So I believe this game was just released at Gen Con or was at Gen Con for show or
Hmm.
something like that. I don't know because I was not at Gen Con. Anyway, this is designed by Greg Loring Albright and published by Leader Games. And this is an asymmetrical 2 to 4 player game with some pick up and deliver and area control. Now, nothing about that sounds interesting to me. I don't like asymmetrical games, and pick up and deliver and area control is eh. But upon further reading, I saw that. So another thing is when you play a 2 player game, you have to be these 2 different factions. There's 4 factions in the game, but if you're only playing 2 player, you have to be these two. And then if you play a third or fourth, then you can be these other 2 factions, which is kind of weird to me.
Hmm.
Uh, but one of the factions is sharks. So
Oh, nice.
and if you are looking at the game box, if you're watching this on YouTube, and you can see some of these little pirates on the ship are sharks holding swords and dressed as pirates and everything. So it looks cool. I might check it out. I don't think I would buy this game, but I would definitely play this if somebody had it, or if it was at my local store and they had it, to rent.
Hmm. Do you know what any of the other factions are?
One of them is mollusks,
Okay.
and then I think the other two are, I'm not sure. I want to say crabs might be one, and I'm looking on the game box here, and it looks like crabs are definitely represented.
Crab people, crab people.
Yeah, but I'm not sure of the fourth one.
Got it. Ahoy! I like the name.
Yeah, I like the theme. It's got tile laying, and the tiles are,
Hmm.
they've got this bright blue sea and like whatever land pieces that are on there. So it looks really cool when you start to build this board and lay it out. But the area control and the pick up and deliver. Well, I don't mind pick up and deliver. That's a normal thing in a game. Not a big area control fan, and I guess my big hang up is the fact that, oh, it's a 2 to 4 player game. Oh, great! But in a 2 player game, you have to be these two. It
Right.
seems like it might be a little abstract or whatever, especially with the asymmetrical thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. I guess they didn't try to balance it with the other factions. Like, if I get a game like that, I want to be able to play, multiple factions at any time.
Right.
One more on the hotness scale here. This one is currently on Kickstarter as of this recording. By the time this one comes out, there'll probably be, I don't know, maybe a week or two left from it. This one's
Yeah,
called
I think about 2 weeks.
Trailblazers. Yeah, yeah. And this image, by the way, is right from the Kickstarter page. So there's that. Trailblazers is a game where you're going to be making these paths. So I enjoy that mechanism for sure. You're gonna get a hand of cards and do a little bit of drafting, where you take two and then pass the rest to the next person. You get a new set, and you do that a couple times, and then you're gonna start kind of building these pathways. So the cool thing about this game, though, is there's three different types. There are hiking paths, there are biking paths, and then there are kayak paths. So those are the different color paths in the game. You're going to have like a base camp for each one of these two. So it sounds like in the beginning, like in round one, you choose a base camp that you're going to start with, whether it's the kayak, the biking, or the hiking, and then you're building your paths around that. There's also some in-game scoring objectives that'll come out. Something like have 3 complete loops or something like that, or go around a campsite. And then on top of that, there's end game scoring conditions as well. There's a couple of expansions that you can add on to your pledge here. One of them is these animal. Well, they both actually involve the animal tokens, but the one of them is just strictly the animals, where you're trying to put the most unique animals on each path, and that'll scale up in points. So one animal gets you 1 point, two gets you three, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds like the other expansion is a lot more complicated. It's like the adventure thing where all those in-game and end-game scoring goals kind of go out the window. I don't know a ton about how that one plays out. But I like the way this looks. We love tile laying games. These are cards. We love making those paths. It's kind of cool. It reminds me a little bit of the Sprawlopolis game that Button Shy had, although that's co-op.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
similar in that you're
It just
laying
yeah,
these
it
cards.
looks the same with those kind of cards.
Right, right. So I don't know. This looks interesting. I don't think I would back it, but I would definitely play it. There are kind of a couple of insane pledge levels on this where they have like waterproof cards or something like that, and these
Yeah,
crazy carrying cases and things like that. But
yeah.
uh,
One other thing that I did know about this game that I want to throw out there is that you can, if you're trying to do one of these loops for whatever, you can take a card and put it on top of another card just to
mhm,
complete a loop. But you're not married to this one path if it's going to mess something else up, and
right, right.
that's cool that you can do that.
So this one is designed by Ryan Courtney, who has a few games under his belt. BGG says it's 8 and up, about 30 minutes, and has a solo mode, but also plays up to 8 players. So there's that. That's Trailblazers, blazing the trail. I like the cover. I like the artwork actually on this, and some of those meeple tokens are pretty cool.
Yeah, this one looks cool. I immediately was attracted to it and was reading it, and then I saw the carrying case and the waterproof cards. And I was like, oh, well, that I guess is cool. And they're like, and then there's this big game that has all these meeples and everything. I was like, so wait, you don't get the meeples in the little carrying case? So it's not really a
Yeah,
full game. It's just, it's like they made this base game and then they made it better with these expansions, but they just want to sell you this base game because it's waterproof. I don't get it.
yeah,
Like who needs a waterproof game? Like that's a lot of extra money to get, that deluxe edition.
for sure,
Right?
for
I
sure.
mean, I wonder. I don't know the price, but you could just get 2 copies of the regular one, right?
Yeah,
Play
we're
one in the
just
rain,
don't play in the water. I mean,
right? Like I don't play a lot of board games in the rain, so maybe I'm not the person to be talking about this.
yeah, yeah. Hey, you know what? You got to find a gimmick, something that makes your game different, and if that's what it takes, then more power to them.
But
So
it feels like the artwork and the look of the game is already enough to bring in you know people and bring in the interest and have people look at it. That it just again, I feel like it's a useless gimmick, I guess,
mm, yeah, I agree.
but I still like the game. So that's it. We are done. No more bonus poetry. No more days in September. No more hotness. No more whatevers. We will see you guys next month.
Yeah, well, we'll see you before that, but we'll be back next month.
Right. We will
Um,
we will talk to you guys next month if you're listening.
all right, folks, that's it for now. We will see you in a little bit, and thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you. Bye.
See ya.